Welcome back to another episode of Stop Mixing Sense. When I started this series as my New Year's resolution in the beginning of the year, I had a whole plan for how it was going to go, but y'all asked so many good questions that I felt I kind of had to respond to immediately, and that kind of derailed my initial plan, because the point of this series is to not be a technical approach to mixing, because that's already been done, and to emphasize the aspects of mixing that are almost innate, simply because of the fact that we are all humans sharing this human experience. That's what I was trying to do with Kiki Booba. If you haven't watched that, please go back to the first video. And that's what I'm going to get back on track with in this episode, because today I am going to attempt to begin to answer the age-old question, is mixing subjective or objective, or both, or neither? So as usual, let's start with an example that has nothing to do with mixing. If you were to step on a single nail, the nail would pierce your foot, and you'd end up in a pretty uncomfortable place. But if you were to lie on a bed of nails, the weight of your body versus the pressure of the nails would be evenly distributed, and you would not have a nail through any isolated part of your body. You would be supported and probably have feelings of deep relaxation. Okay, quick plug, I actually own my own version of this, a Shakti mat. I use it every night before bed. I highly recommend it. I am not sponsored by them. I am simply speaking my truth because a Shakti mat is the only thing that can lull me to sleep as I'm having residual anxiety over whether or not I should have raised the base 2 dB and thinking about if I'm going to want to change it first thing in the morning. So thank you, Shakti mat. But back to the bed of nails and why I brought it up. We actually perceive sounds similarly. Have you ever wondered why when you hear one loud piercing shriek, it feels more uncomfortable than a crowd of people yelling, even if the crowd is actually louder? And have you ever wondered why string quartets are more popular than a solo violin performance? It's because our ears work the same way. They crave equilibrium. So if you had the choice between listening to this or this, for the entire duration of a concert, which would you choose? Now, although a violin isn't quite as piercing as a single nail, it might get a little uncomfortable or fatiguing to listen to after a while, just to be hearing something in that register for a prolonged period of time. And this is literally why bass guitars exist, to balance out the harshness of their electric guitar counterparts. And before you say, what about the Black Keys or the White Stripes, whose sound is famously just drums and electric guitar, even that guitar tone has a fair amount of low end, and they did actually add a bassist and keyboardist in recent years, maybe because they finally figured it out too. But I digress. What I'm getting at with this whole bed of nails thing is, let's say you have a guitar that's really piercing when soloed, but when you listen to it within the context of your whole mix, it actually sounds great. That's because the other instruments in your mix are acting as the bed of nails and the mix sounds balanced. But what if, let's say, in the verses of the song, there's less going on with the other instruments, and the drums aren't as busy, the bass line is more simplified, the synths disappear, and all of a sudden, that guitar seems a little bit harsh. That's because the bed of nails are gone. And it's the single nail now. Before, when there was more going on, it needed that brightness to cut through the other instruments in the mix. But now that it's alone, you may need to EQ it differently. It's a subjective decision, yes, but if objectively it feels uncomfortable to listen to, at least to you, and that's the reason you want to EQ it differently, then it's kind of both.